Well, hello everyone, and welcome to back to my channel. Welcome to West Best Media. You- My uh, my name is Neville Philpotts, and I'm your host today. And today we're going to talk about Nigeria, Nigeria's president, and his hostility towards the AES country, which is Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, and what may be driving his attitude towards the ASE. Nigeria borders Niger. So Nigeria is next door to the ASE countries. But yet, the Nigerian president is hostile to the ASEAN countries. When they left ECOWAS, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was president of ECOWAS, wanting to send his army in to force Niger to come back to ECOWAS, even though he did not have population support. Now, the question is, what was driving that? Before we dig deeper into this, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, hit the like button, and share with your friends and your group so we can have this go viral, so people can understand why Nigeria is not friendly with the ASC countries. Now, a little history. Before Bola Tinubu became president of Nigeria, he had problem in the United States. He had to forfeit 460,000 US dollars to the United States government. He quietly left the United States and didn't return for many years. So, just to get started, this is a real unfiltered show. We're going to dig deep into some of these reasons. And again, my name is Neville Philpotts. And the shocking truth is that the Nigerian president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has serious problem with the United States. And he wanted to stay on the right side of the West. So he decided to play hardball with Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. This got real serious on the Nigerian president part. If you remember last year, the presidential jet airplane was seized in France by a court order that was obtained from a Chinese company. The Chinese company was doing business in Nigeria, and they had a dispute with the Nigerian government. Um, but they did not take the court, the case to the Nigerian court because they fear they would have lost that case. So they took it to the court in France, a European court, and they won. So the jet was, the planes were seized. Eventually, the Chinese company released one of the presidential jet, so he could use it to attend a function in France. The reason for this dispute was 74 million, involved $74 million, and the Chinese company that was doing business in Nigeria, in Ogonga State. This wasn't even a federal case; it was a state case, but yet they were able to receive injunction. Now, let's get to the meat of this. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso quit ECOWAS, started their own alliance, kicked out the French government and the French military out of these countries. So, in my opinion, the French government and the United States government put pressure on Nigerian president to try to bring these three countries back in line. Eventually, it didn't work. He wasn't able to, Nigeria wasn't able to send its army into Niger. But what Nigeria did, Nigeria cuts off electricity supplies to Niger, even though Niger was paying for this electricity supply. Nigeria cut it off. But like I said, when the West wants to pressure you, if they have something on you, they don't forget. This 1973 case that was in the United States against Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where he had to forfeited 460,000 US dollars. This was not a criminal case, it was a civil case. And he was not criminally convicted, but they seized his money from his bank account. And they claim he was in illicit. They claim it was drugs money. He, again, like I said, he was not indicted, but he was compromised absolutely. This type of dirt that the United States has in him, the West has in him, they don't forget it. So he has to play nice with them. Now fast forward to 2024 in the Sahel region when Burkina Faso Mali and Nigeria and Niger um, pull out of the ECOWAS. They kicked out the French troop. They reject ECOWAS, and they said that ECOWAS was full of manipulations, and they formed their own alliance, which is called the AES, Alliance of the Sahel Strait. These leaders, Traore, Gota, and Tijani, are pushing for real sovereignty. Now, the West don't want African countries to have sovereignty. They want them to continue to be dependent. These three countries move to control their national resources. They also move to have military independence, economical independence, and align themselves with Russia and China and BRICS. Now, the United States has a big problem with BRICS. If BRICS gain tractions, if enough countries join BRICS, it will be the end of the US dollar domination in the world, because these countries would have alternative measures. The United States does not want that. And they're pushing for everything to keep African countries from joining BRICS. So, what does this mean? All means? It means that if the United States and the Western powers have any kind of dirt on any African leaders, they would put pressure on them to don't join, put pressure on them not to join the AES or support the AES. You know, what I'm saying to you, these are not conspiracy theories. These are real stuff. You don't believe me, you can go back and look it up in the United States about Bola Tinubu and he forfeiting this 460,000 US dollars. You know, or you can go back and look up and you'll see that the presidential plane was seized in France. These were all pressure that were put on the Nigerian government and president to get these three countries back in line. Nigeria is the powerhouse in Africa. It is the largest state, has the largest economy. So the West was putting pressure on Nigeria to bring these three countries back in. West don't want to lose their access to raw mineral or natural resources at cheap prices. So they'll go to any length to keep these countries in line. But so far, it hasn't worked. Burkina Faso is pulling more closer and closer to Russia. Russia is helping to develop Burkina Faso in all ways, in military, economics, and security. And finally, I support this movement for the African countries to be independent. Africa need to be independent. Africa has been raped and abused for too long. Africa is the richest continent in the world, bar none. There's no other continent as rich as Africa. Africa has the youngest population. Just to give an example, one country in Africa, the DRC, is estimated to have at least $23 trillion worth of mineral in the ground that has not been harvested yet or mined yet. That's just the DRC. Now combine that with all the other countries. You see why Africa is the richest country in the world, the richest continent in the world, but it also is the poorest continent in the world. The US, United States, and the Europe is trying their best to keep Africa poor, Africa illiterate, and Africa is all to keep them also in the state of always be begging for help. So when you have bold leaders like Ibrahim Traore, Gorja, and Tiani stand up and saying, no more. We want our independent. We want our resource to benefit our people. Again, if you're here, still here, and like what you're hearing, please hit the like button. Please subscribe and please share. Please let this video go viral so people can understand why a country like Nigeria, a black country, a neighbor to these other three countries, is being so hostile to them. It's not, when I say Nigeria, I'm not talking about Nigerians. I'm talking about Nigeria, the government, and maybe not everyone in the government, but the president and his people are hostile to Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. And they're targeting Ibrahim Traore because Ibrahim Traore is the most outspoken. He's the youngest and the most outspoken leader. Ibrahim Traore is a Pan-Africanist. Ibrahim Traore wants to see black people, not only in Africa, but worldwide, be independent. He is calling for Africans to return to the motherland. The West does not want this. Now think about it. If majority of black Americans leave America and go back to Africa, same in Europe, what will happen to America and Europe? Who is working at the bottom the draft, working to keep these countries to prop them up is the black people. Black people has occupied most of the menial small jobs in these countries. Most black people don't occupy high positions. Yes, there are few, but it's not as many as the white people. So the West don't want Africa to be free. They see that if Africa is free, let's work out a little scenario here. Let's say you have Chad, Togo, those countries now are people have been talking about those countries wanted to join the AES. And you have a country like Senegal, Ghana moved in. What happened to the ECOWAS? ECOWAS would be dead. Not only that, you will have a rapid move from these other African countries to not say gain independence, because most of them are independent already, but to gain financial independence, take control of their natural resource. If you start having that, the West would not be as powerful as it anymore, because the West was built on the backs of Africans and on cheap, stolen resource from Africa. So if Africans and African countries start taking control of their resource and start demanding a fair price on the market, the West would collapse. The first one I think that would go is France. One of France president already said that without Africa, France would be renegated to a third world country. So just think about it. Of all the resource, minerals, oil that Africa has, Africa does not need anything to survive from the West. Africa has everything it needs. It's just for Africans to start developing their own country. But the West is trying to keep them, hold them down with crazy stuff like food aids and these charity that they trying to give. When they bring food aid in, one of their restriction is that you don't need to develop your agricultural industry. They don't want you to be able to feed yourself. They want for you to be dependent on them to give you food. So which means it's going to keep you poor so they can continue stealing your resource. Again, I'm going to leave it here. But before I go, I want to say thank you for watching. And please like and share this video. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Or let me know what other subject you think I should cover. Peace and love, my brother and sisters.